Federal Executive Council approves the establishment of the Nigerian Industrial Policy and Competitiveness Advisory Council.
Four female teenage suicide bombers and 2 men killed in an explosion in Maiduguri, Borno State.
And Nigerians in South Africa assured of federal government support.
Good morning, Nigeria today focuses on regulating broadcast and telecom industry for national growth and development. Plus, Senate rejects Ibrahim Magu as chairman of EFCC.
All right, now like every other nation, Nigeria recognizes free speech as a fundamental right of our citizen, of course, as enshrined in the 1999 Constitution, which also provides for the right of an individual or group to hold an opinion and freely express such opinion.
Yes, Claire. Now, the right to free speech is a right that makes humanity who they are, but you must also agree with me that every freedom has its limits. Otherwise, it will be boundless freedom.
Indeed. Now, let's fast forward to recently when the former Director General of the National Broadcasting Commission, NBC, Dr. Tom Adaba, came up with an advocacy where, of course, he said, and I quote, "Hate speech is not free speech." Now, his concern at the time was based on the monumental damage that hate speech, of course, is reported to have brought to the society.
Concerned Nigerians have noted that hate speech sets a person or group of persons against another, noting that the Nigerian polity has been laced with hate speeches in the form of abuses, threats, curses, and tantrums that stalk the social media space.
All right. Now, here in Nigeria, the National Broadcasting Commission, NBC, was established by government to control and regulate broadcasting, while the National Communication Commission, NCC, has the statutory duty of also controlling and regulating the telecom operations. Now, different countries have adopted different measures to check broadcasters, as broadcasting regulation is dependent on the cultural norms and also contribute to the shaping of these norms and can at times have a significant impact on the forms and content of programs transmitted.
Where the media comes in development process is through what is called development communication. This is a type of communication which could persuade, encourage, or convince the viewer or target audience to adopt an attitude and participate in actualizing a development plan or goal. In certain instances, the message sent aims at making the target audience adopt a positive attitudinal change towards a development purpose. But where the message is contrary to this goal is when the regulator comes in.
Now, because of these hate speeches, of course, which have pervaded the political space, the National Broadcasting Commission recently again, last week, noted with great concern the upsurge in the use of the broadcast airwaves and relaying hate speeches. Now, that's an act inimical to the broadcasting profession. Now, that's a prompt for our discussion today, again, as we look into what is being done to ensure that regulators of the broadcast and telecom sectors are carrying out their mandate, and that is of monitoring and regulating operators in a manner that will not be detrimental to the nation. Again, that's a focus on today's edition of Good Morning Nigeria. I am Claire Dilabo Abdurrazak, and this is Thursday's edition of the program. It's always our pleasure to have you join us.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo, joining Claire to welcome you to today's program, coming to you from the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network. Now, also yesterday, the Nigerian Senate rejected Ibrahim Magu from becoming chairman of the EFCC for the second time. That's a rejection. Now, this will also be another subject of discourse on today's edition of the program.
All right, Kingsley. Now, as always, I'm sure you're familiar with the lineup of programs. So we'll be taking our companion segments. That will be newspaper review, business, sports, foreign, and arts and entertainment. Now, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, we're glad to have you as we join Lauri Bala Hassan for the news. Lauri, morning.
Thank you, Claire. Good morning and welcome to the news segment. The Senate has again rejected the nomination of Ibrahim Magu as the substantive chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. Ibrahim Magu was rejected after appearing before the Senate for his confirmation.
Can you tell this distinguished Senate how much you have recovered since you started acting as the chairman of EFCC? What happened if there is an existence of such a very comfortable and convenient detention centers and people are reportedly being badly treated?
You have the power for forfeiture of people's property. Can you please explain the procedure that you always use and the end result?
I am not by any way saying what we are doing is completely right. I am not saying that. It doesn't exist. But we'll try as much as possible to do the right things.
Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. Nay. The nays have it.
And to security matters now. 4 female teenage suicide bombers and 2 other men have died in the early hours of Wednesday following suicide attacks on Usmanti village along Muna Garage in Maiduguri, the Borno state capital. Confirming the attack, Borno State Police Command stated that already the police anti-bomb squad has visited the scene.
I saw one bumping that area when I came out. Immediately when this one finished, then I heard another sound from my left-hand side. Immediately some second ago, then another one with triplications of a seconds.
And Nigerian troops fighting the insurgency in the northeast have neutralized 4 Boko Haram terrorists and recovered 1 AK-56 rifle, 60 rounds of 7.62 mm special ammunition, 3 AK-56 rifle magazines, 1 Boko Haram terrorist flag, 5 SIM cards and 5 bicycles. This is contained in a statement from the Director Army Public Relations, Brigadier General Sani Kukasheka Usman. Army spokesman credits the action to the troops of 151 Task Force Battalion, 21 Brigade, Nigerian Army Operation Lafia Dole, who were on patrol around College of Business Studies along Bama Road, Borno State. And the Federal Executive Council has approved the establishment of the Nigeria Industrial Policy and Competitiveness Advisory Council in furtherance of the nation's Industrial Revolution Plan. Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Okechukwu Enelama, announced this while briefing newsmen after the council's meeting.
Evidence that when government partners with the private sector, it's not either or, that you get better results. What we're doing here is to make sure that this government has a council at the highest level for interacting with industrialists and the private sector. And it clearly will build on whatever has been done, without taking away from what was done in the past. In the present, that engagement is needed, and we have the council for doing it, to work together to make sure we achieve our industrialization goals. And I think you see better results going forward.
I don't think anybody can give us one example of a purely 100% government enterprise that has succeeded better than partnership with the private sector. Even in the First Republic, the companies you're talking about, either the textile mills or the cocoa industry or Nigerite, it was partnership between the government and the private sector.
President Muhammadu Buhari has approved the appointment of Qadi Ibrahim Rufai Imam as the acting Grand Qadi of the Sharia Court of Appeal of the Federal Capital Territory. A statement from the Director Information, National Judicial Council, Mr. Soji Oye, says the acting appointment is sequel to the retirement of the former Grand Qadi of the court. The statement further says Qadi Ibrahim Rufai will be sworn in by the Chief Justice of Nigeria and Chairman, National Judicial Council, Justice Walter Samuel Onogen, today by 2:30 p.m. at the Supreme Court of Nigeria. The Nigerian Foreign Affairs Minister, Geoffrey Onyema, and his interior counterpart, Abdul Rahman Dambazo, have met with the Nigerian community in South Africa, where they assured them of federal government support.
ANC councillor with other members of ANC came that I'm a Nigerian and I'm not supposed to own a house in this country. I said, why? They said, no, my house is under investigation. Why some South Africans don't have where to sleep? And then Nigerians are coming here, buying a house.
Our position was that it is totally unacceptable that lives of Nigerians and the property of Nigerians in South Africa should be in danger and threatened. Whatever the root causes, that was unacceptable. And they accept that it is unacceptable.
Wife of the President, Aisha Muhammadu Buhari, has reaffirmed her commitment in driving the campaign of protecting the rights and safety of the consumer. Mrs. Buhari stated this in a message shortly after the investiture in her honor as Consumer Ambassador of Nigeria. The event was part of the activities to mark 2017 World Consumer Rights Day, put together by the Consumer Protection Council, CPC.
We are therefore convinced that if Her Excellency Aisha Buhari will, as the Nigerian ambassador, bring her passion to bear on the education of consumers, a large population of our citizens, particularly women, will be sensitized of their consumer rights and responsibility in a very short time.
I want to call on Nigerians to be honest in their economic activities and as consumers of goods and services, so they can contribute positively to the economic growth and development of the nation.
And that's the news for now. The Good Morning Nigeria continues with Claire and Kingsley shortly after the break.
If you hear a bomb explosion or gunshots of an active shooter, that might be a terror attack. At such times, always remember 3 action words: run, hide, report. Don't try to run towards the terror scene to save the situation, because there might be a second bomb blast or another attack. Run far away and take cover. Make sure you are safe first. Yes, it is in our nature to sympathize over the hurt, but remember, only trained personnel can help in such situations. When in a secured environment, promptly call relevant authorities and help will come. For anonymous reporting, call 09630-3250-5 or 0813-2222-106. If you see something, say something. Nigeria unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
What makes a Niger mom powerful?
I encourage my kids to learn new things. And if they get hurt, I rely on the power of my Dettol's One Capful. To fight germs, it's like my own first aid kit.
My family needs protection from germs. I use the power of Dettol's One Capful to disinfect surfaces and clothes to keep them clean and safe from germs.
I trust the power of Dettol's One Capful for bathing. The power of Dettol's One Capful protects from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Millions of powerful Niger moms use the power of Dettol's One Capful to protect their families. Be a powerful Niger mom with Dettol. Be 100% sure.
So what's up, sweetheart? You really look like you're up to something.
I have a secret.
Okay.
I'll be going to Europe next week.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Like you have your visa, your passport, your plane ticket?
No, not that way. Some men are helping us. We pay them, they take us through the desert, and then we cross the sea into Europe.
The desert, the sea. Isn't that the route where many have died?
Yes, it is indeed a very dangerous journey. In 2016 alone, 4,900 people died while crossing the Mediterranean Sea to enter Europe. Many were Nigerians. For the very few who survived the journey, they are forced into prostitution or other crimes just to survive. Eventually, they will be arrested and deported to Nigeria. Don't be a victim. Don't go this way.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
All right, time to talk business, and the global business community will be better off if doors of opportunities are opened to women and girls. Now, that's in all aspects of productive life. Now, this is according to the United Nations Secretary General. We have more of these and other stories with Kulu Mohammed.
The United Nations seeks more commitment by governments to reduce inequality and enhance more participation of women in economic activities. With men still dominating even in countries that consider themselves progressive, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has said that the empowerment of women must be key priority.
And male chauvinism blocks women, and that hurts everyone. We are all better off when we open doors of opportunity for women and girls in classrooms and boardrooms, in military ranks and at peace talks, in all aspects of productive life. Some governments are enacting laws that curtail women's freedoms. Others are rolling.
Guterres told the Commission of Status of Women, CSW, which began its annual session in the UN headquarters, that women already have what it takes to succeed, stressing that empowerment is about breaking structural barriers. In her address, the UN Women Executive Director said there are still laws in more than 150 countries around the world that discriminate against women and urged decision makers to address stereotypes, norms and practices that discriminate against women and girls and have for generations denied women career paths at par with those of men. The Commission for Status of Women is the principal global intergovernmental body dedicated to the promotion of gender equality and the empowerment of women. With its priority theme, Women's Economic Empowerment in the Changing World of Work, CSW's 61st session will run through 24th of March. And in Nigeria, the Minister of Finance, Kemi Adeosun, has intervened and brokered a resolution to the dispute between the National Pension Commission, PENCOM, and the National Insurance Commission, NICOM, over a circular issued by PENCOM directing life insurance companies to transfer their annuity asset holdings to pension fund custodians. This she did at a meeting convened between PENCOM and NICOM, where both parties agreed to issue a joint circular on Tuesday, the 21st of March, expected to supersede all previous circulars issued by the two regulatory agencies on the annuity matter. The minister said the move to broker peace became necessary as the ministry received several complaints from pensioners in relation to the dispute. The equities market records 0.07 modest gain Wednesday to maintain uptrend. Up ahead is a graphic summary. That's business news at this hour. I am Kulu Mohammed.
Thank you very much there, Kulu Mohammed, for the business package. Newspaper review is next on Good Morning Nigeria.
And I have the pleasure of introducing Bayo Atoyebi, who is in the studio. Bayo, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. Good morning. Good morning, Kingsley, and good morning, Nigeria.
All right, Bayo, good morning and welcome once again. Now let's begin our review by taking a look at the front page of Daily Trust newspaper. As indeed you would find on the front pages of other publications the story on the Senate rejection of the nomination of the acting chair of the EFCC is right there on the front page. That's the lead story for the Daily Trust newspaper. It says, anti-corruption war continues, Magu says. Now, there are two writers to that. He ceases to be EFCC acting chair. That's attributed to Saraki, who is Senate president. It's a national disgrace. That's according to Ezekwesili. Now, above that, you have two other headlines. Confusion over EFCC's appeal against Odile, former governor of Rivers. McCarthy, Shakarau, others in talks with 15 political parties. Details, of course, can be found inside the Daily Trust. Now, below the photograph of that's Magu, you can see there
while it appeared at the Senate yesterday. Now, there are other headlines on the front page of Daily Trust. Federal government allows Kaduna Abuja helicopter shuttle. And students' marriage, Bauchi school reopens after closure. Hamid Ali must appear today, Senate says. Claire.
All right, I have the New Telegraph with me, and of course the lead story is also on Magu, but the captions is on this way. Roadblock for Magu, and there you see a number of riders. Senate rejects acting EFCC chair, cites security report. Now DSS, he has dual personality. Magu, your integrity in question. Now reps strip president of power to appoint EFCC chair. Details of that on pages 6 and 7. Now, he can't continue in acting capacity. That's Sagi. Lawyers disagree. Quite a number of writers there. And you'll see the picture story, of course, of the EFCC chair right in front there. Now, trending story at the bottom, a sad one indeed. Policeman's wife stabs 8-month-old baby. A mother kills 2 sons. Nursing mother electrocuted. Details of that you can find on page 8. And just a little below the nameplates, there are other trending stories. Power investors pick holes in 701 billion naira intervention fund. Details of that on page 10. And federal government okays helicopter operations at Abuja Airport, also on page 5. And reps seek cut in kerosene price. You can find that on page 32. And unpaid salaries, ASU gives FJ States 14-day ultimatum. And just boldly coming atop the nameplate, Customs puts vehicle verification excuse me, on hold, confirms, of course, a New Telegraph's report. Senate insists CG Ali must appear before it today. Bayo, I think we should just quickly take the story. Since
yes, let's take the Magu story that is dominating all the headlines. The Senate has rejected to confirm Ibrahim Mustafa Magu as the chairman of EFCC, and it noted that he ceases to be the acting chair and the president has to send forth another nomination. This is the second rejection of Ibrahim Magu, and again it is predicated on the 15-point objection regarding his integrity raised by the Department of State Services. Mr. Magu responded that 2 letters were written by the same agency about him, and he was not even invited for his own side to be heard. The irony here is that it is the same allegations that the presidency had cleared Magu of complicity, for which it forwarded his name the second time, that the Senate is still holding on. Many who watched the telecast of the screening were also surprised that Mr. Magu could not tell the Senate how much the FCC has recovered since he took charge. The issues have risen now. Is Mr. Magu, who is championing the war against corruption, did he come to the equity of the Senate with a clean hand? The second issue to raise is the Senate, some of whose members are having pending cases of corruption before the AFCC, fair and just, especially when none of such senators declined to be part of that screening because of conflict of interest. Lawyers have different perspectives. Lawyer Mike Ezekome says that following the rejection, he ceases to become acting chairman and his name cannot be presented again. This, he cited, is in accordance with the act establishing the FCC. However, Femi Falana says that the FCC report is undermining the office of the president. Secondly, he says the confirmation may be by the Senate may be illegal because the Senate were under investigation and some of them are likely to be prosecuted. Therefore, the whole process is vitiated. The special advisor to the president on corruption, Professor Issy Sagi, says that the president is free to represent Magu as many times as he so chooses, and this he predicated upon Section 171 of the Constitution. Another senior advocate of Nigeria, Olani Kwekun, says these lingering questions is contributing to this, whether the screening was carried out altruistically in patriotic interest or it was carried out in the basis of vendetta. And you recall, Senator Shehu Sani said yesterday was the Ides of March, and he was referring to a classical by Shakespeare, Julius Caesar. And there too, the soothsayer had warned Caesar, the Ides of March is here. And Caesar and the soothsayer said, I not gone. So Marcus' confirmation on the Ides of March probably may not be over it.
All right, Bayo, thank you. Well, we had the Ides of March, of course, on the 15th of March, 2006. That was the day Ngige was judicially ousted.
Yes.
And then Peter Obi became governor of Anambra State. So that's one of the issues. But of course, it's a matter that will linger for a while. That's said, this rejection of Magu as acting chair for a second time now by the Senate. Let's go over now to the this day newspaper and then take a look at the headlines on its front page. Of course, the lead story relates to what Bayo just discussed now concerning the second nomination of Magu. Now, above the nameplate, as oil rebounds, Kachuku says fluctuating prices pose no immediate threat. And below that, Customs boss Hamid Ali shuns Senate, risks arrest. Now, below the nameplate, disquiet among judges over proposed appointment of lawyers to Supreme Court. As I said, we've already discussed the lead story, which is there, as you find on other pages of front pages of other papers. Justice Ademola and wife ask court to strike out charges against them. Details of that story can be found inside. Claire.
All right, finally, I have the authority and also leading with the same story on, of course, Senate's rejection of Magu and other reactions there you can find. It also has on its front page there, of course, a picture story. That's the River State governor there, and of course, PDP chieftain Sergeant Wuse and others inspecting projects. Court bars APC from Anambra Central election. You can also find that story on page 2. I think we've talked about the other trending issues. Bayo, quickly.
Yes. Well, the other one, of course, is the Custom Controller General appearance before the Senate. He's due to appear today, but before his appearance, the Custom has announced suspension of the implementation of the payment of import duties on all vehicles. The Public Relations Officer of the Customs, Joseph Atta, says that this was done in compliance with the Controller General's directive, pending a time with which he will meet with members of the National Assembly. The Senate is expecting him to appear today by 11 a.m. Otherwise, it will issue a warrant of arrest to get him to the Senate. He's also charged to appear in uniform. That has raised issues. The custom boss once said he will seek legal advice about appearing in uniform. Historically, the custom used to be headed by a director. Subsequently, later on, it had a sole administrator. It was during the tenure of, I think, Haliru Bello that they now started having Controller General. Now the question is Controller General a rank in uniform services or a position in public service in the Nigerian Custom of Excise?
Well, those are issues that will be sorted out again. Bayo, that's just a story that is on page 42 of the Daily Trust newspaper. The story is curious. It says the story is from New Zealand. It says, river giving legal human status. That I read the story paragraph. It says, a river in New Zealand has become the first in the world to be granted the same legal rights as a person. It says the New Zealand Parliament passed the bill recognizing the Wanganui River in North Ireland as a living entity. Long revered by New Zealand's Maori people, the river's interests would now be represented by 2 people. Now, the Maori had been fighting for over 160 years to get this recognition for their river.
The Maoris are the Aboriginals.
That's right.
Yes, okay.
All right, Bayo, thank you for being with us today. We'll see you again tomorrow.
Thank you. Tomorrow will be another day.
No,
all right. We'll see you again tomorrow for newspaper review.
Yes.
All right, so that does it for newspaper review segment, and we'll take a short break now. When we return, of course, we'll be taking on our items for conversation.
Hear the call of change. Stand up, Nigeria. Change is here and it's going to stay. Change begins with you. Oh yeah, make we go. Go so let the change begin from within. Look at you, Ogeruola. Change begins with you and me. Change begins with me. Change begins with me. Change begins with me.
In season 2, we met Hannah in Akrapo, a 6-year-old whose heart condition was preventing her from leading a normal life.
The problem is so dangerous for my daughter.
We revisit her 9 months after her life-changing operation. And for young orphan Taiwo Simbiat, life with her grandmother is hard.
The day I got to their house, she was lying down there. She was virtually bedridden.
And without immediate intervention, her future looks bleak.
Touching lives.
Hello, dear. You've got the first signs of a sore throat.
Yes, and I'm afraid it could be signs of a sore throat.
Don't you worry. Just act immediately, but not with non-medicated throat sweet. Take an expert product. Take Strepsils. Look at what it does to sore throat germs compared to a throat sweet. Strepsils not only stops the germs from multiplying, it even kills them.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, sore throat. Stop a sore throat early. Take Strepsils.
NTA Properties Investment Company Limited, a subsidiary of the Nigerian Television Authority, specializes in creating comfort in all areas of life, such as real estate investments, that is, land, houses, and office spaces, mass leasing, savings and loan scheme, household items and car loans, and so much more. Other information and entertainment services include Property in Style, a TV program that airs on the network service of the NTA, and also Property Connect, a nationwide magazine. Our priority is to bridge poverty gaps and sustain quality welfare of our clients. Partner with us and watch us help you grow. Pay us a visit today at the NTA headquarters permanent site, Area 11 Garki, Abuja, or our Lagos office at number 15 Awolowo Road, Ikoyi, Lagos. For more information, visit our website on www.ntaproperties.com.ng, or you can email us on ntapeak2000@yahoo.com. Call us on 080-2316-3474 or 080-6939-5185 or 070-3189-0555. NTA Properties Investment Company Limited, the much needed help at your doorstep.
All right. If you have just joined us once again, you're welcome. This is Good Morning Nigeria, and it's broadcast live here on the, of course, Africa's largest TV network, the NTA in Abuja. Now, until the deregulation of the broadcast industry in 1992 and the establishment of the National Broadcasting Commission, NBC, as broadcast regulator, only public-owned broadcast outfits exist. Now, of course, opening up the industry has resulted in the emergence and proliferation of the broadcast media stations across the country. Ditto, the telecommunication industry also witnessed similar development, leading to, of course, substandard and low-quality output, as they have become all-commerce affair. Let's listen to Timothy Yusuf in this background report.
A lot of research has been on to find out the relationship between the broadcasting and telecommunication industries, as well as their audiences. The main concern borders on quality broadcasting and service providers, as they are expected to transmit the best of quality to their audiences in a professional manner. Those who know say what obtains in recent, however, falls below qualitative and professional services. A lot of unprofessional and unethical misconducts abound in both industries, which have led to the call for strict regulation and application of sanctions. Experts cite incidents of unregulated political programs, unethical commercials, violation of human rights, political interference in broadcast stations, unbalanced reporting, inciting and hate messages, as well as biased reporting as the order of the day in the country's airwaves. In the telecommunications sector, poor services, unsolicited messages, hidden charges and other shortcomings have continued to be of concern to the public. The question being asked, therefore, is what are the regulatory agencies such as the National Broadcasting Commission, NBC, and the Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC, doing to address these shortcomings? Are there toothless bulldogs that can only bark and not bite? Do they need new legislations to enable them effectively discharge their responsibilities? Must the practitioners wait for the regulators to sanction them before they do what is right? Where is the place of laws and ethics that are supposed to act as guiding principles? What is the future of these two important industries in the country? These are some of the issues guests on Good Morning Nigeria will be providing answers to shortly.
We're now being joined by the Director General of the National Broadcasting Commission, Ishaq Modibo Kawu. A pleasure to have you join us on the program.
Good morning.
Okay.
And of course, I also have again the pleasure of reintroducing Bayo Atoyibe, this time in his capacity as former Executive Secretary, Nigeria Press Council. Mr. Atoyibe, thank you very much for joining us, for staying back.
Thank you for having me. I've changed my cap.
All right.
Yes. Kinsley. All right, well, let's begin with the Director General of the National Broadcasting Commission. How would you assess the broadcast industry in the country at the moment? Do you find them sophisticated enough in terms of discharging their mandate, also in terms of meeting the terms of their license?
Well, we can all agree that Nigerian broadcasting has developed over the years. We have a total of about 793 radio and television stations in the country today. And if you look at where we're coming from, I was hired by Radio Nigeria 40 years ago as, first of all, as a studio manager trainee, then an announcer. There were just a few radio stations in Nigeria 40 years ago. Today we have a lot of them. So in terms of a quantitative development, there's a lot you can talk about. At the level of quality, we can interrogate the field. And for me, as somebody who has to regulate the industry today, there's a lot we can improve in terms of the quality. I think because we've had a lot of, a surfeit of stations, radio and television, maybe the quality of manpower in terms of professionalism has dropped. And the truth is, the very famous professionals have left the industry, and the training gaps have emerged because a lot of young people have come into the industry who do not have the requisite professional background to do the work in a manner that would give us the qualitative edge that we need for the profession. So it's a mix. We have a lot of stations, opportunities are open for people to participate in broadcasting, but the quality can be better.
Mike, if you listen to the background report, you know, the reporter describes, you know, the broadcast airwaves right now as an all-commerce affair. Now, with regards to deregulation, looking back, what goes on in your mind?
Well, the truth is, I think the regulation has been good for the industry, but deregulation also has its negative sides. Some people have come into the industry who did not come from a professional background. Basically, people who come to invest from a commercial perspective. Some have also gotten licenses from the fact that they have professional connections. And so when they get the opportunity to start radio and television stations, they haven't come into an industry from trying to perform professionally. Sometimes commercial imperatives have been the major drivers, and then also sometimes political imperatives. These have not often assisted professional development, and then there's not a consistent pattern of investment in the training of personnel to have very high level of professional performances on radio and television. So when all is said and done, there is good and there is bad in the industry. But it's our duty, I think, as regulators, as professionals in the industry, to continue to try to find the very best way to take the industry forward and make it actually perform to the level that would enhance our industry collectively in the country. But you also have to understand that on a general level, standards have dropped in our country. educational standards, professional standards, even interpersonal relationships, standards are not as good as they used to be. Yeah, so in this, broadcasting therefore reflects this general drop of standards in our country. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Bayo Atuebe, of course, in addition to your last stint as last office rather, as Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Press Council, you also were at the National Broadcasting Commission.
Yes.
What are your perspectives on the state of the broadcast industry today?
Well, I had in the introduction that there is a proliferation of broadcasting. I don't think that is quite right, in the sense that the essence of deregulation is to make sure that broadcasting is dispersed across the country. If you look at our population and our land mass, 793 broadcast stations is seriously underserviced. The disadvantage, however, is that they are mostly concentrated in urban areas, and therefore they look clogged. Secondly, the intention of deregulation was to ensure that the hitherto monopoly, which was only operated by government, was broken and to allow private participation to come in. Broadcasting is basically a vehicle for enhancing our culture, enhancing development, and also providing information. So the intent is there. But the challenge now is that you have the few professionals now spread thin. And therefore, you now have greenhorns coming into broadcasting. And you'll be surprised that somebody who probably has not gone through the school of technique on handling microphone and how to be on air, all of a sudden is on air. When we were growing up, broadcasting and the newspaper was said to be the average man's university. We went to broadcasting to listen to how to pronounce words correctly. We went to the newspaper to read how words are properly constructed. If you want to do that today, even with the newspapers and our broadcasting, you have a lot of mixed syntax and mixed verbs coming across. And so that is what the Director General is referring to, the drop in standard as regards the quality. But the intentment of deregulating broadcasting is to make sure that broadcasting cut across the nation and it dispersed across the nation. And I want to argue that 793 broadcast stations, if you go by even by the number of local government we have alone, that is just about one per local government. But the disadvantage here is that unfortunately they are concentrated in the urban areas.
When we're talking about the decline in standards, I mean, let's push this further and try to have get our viewers to appreciate precisely what's going on. Now, we have also seen in the past 25 years, if not 30 years, a phenomenal rise in the number of institutions where mass communication is taught, or where aspects of broadcasting, you now break it down to print, now online, and broadcasting, and so on and so forth. And I recall, Bayo, that one of the things, one of the last things you tried to do while you were at the Nigerian Press Council was to work in concert with communication educators to seek to review the curriculum for mass communication students. So where is the gap coming from? I mean, if you're having more departments or institutes, where mass communication is taught, the products are out, and they're being engaged by these establishments, 793 of them, assuming all are on air at the same time, and yet we're complaining about the fall in standards. After Bayo, then we'll get back to DG.
Yes, you see, the idea of universities, polytechnics teaching mass communication predated the National Broadcasting Commission. And when the National Broadcasting Commission came into being, there is a clause in the law that insists that such institutions must have functional studios before they are approved. But then there is a conflict here. The approval for a mass communication institution to be established in a university is done by the National Universities Commission. Those polytechnics is done by the National Board for Technical Education. The National Broadcasting Commission and, for instance, the Nigerian Press Council are supposed to be part of the accreditation to ensure that the professional facilities are in place. These were the vacuum that we were trying to fill when I was there at the Press Council. And the NBC too, for a long time, have been trying to do that. But talking about standards, sometimes it behoves on the regulatory body to insist on certain parameters so as to up standard. I can recall that in my early days in the National Broadcasting Commission, we had the situation of insisting on local content. This was particularly about what we call the MMDS, the local cable stations, and also the direct to home DTH stations. Initially, they resisted that they got a license to broadcast, not to produce programs. Today, what everybody is praising, Nollywood, came from that initiative. And it was because the National Broadcasting Commission insisted on local production by them. That was why some of them went into agreement with local producers. And today we have quality programs, although there's still room for this improvement. So sometimes you can have deliberate policy to impact on the quality of the output of broadcasting.
All right, DG, where's the gap in the skills coming from?
Well, I was very curious about the question. A couple of years ago, a university invited me and a couple of people to be part of their faculty to teach mass communication students, because they discovered that, okay, they have lecturers who have PhDs in media studies or mass communication, but they have never practiced in radio, television, or newspaper houses. So they wanted to fill the gap between the theoretical training these guys have had and the practical applications we would bring from the professional training we had. And that gap is very, very, very important. So you have lecturers who can talk about the theories and talk the same theories to the students, but who themselves have never practiced as professionals. And so when they taught students or they teach students, really that's not a lot that they can bring to the table, really. And so you have situations now where very smart institutions are beginning to think that it's better to bring professionals who have performed to come and assist in the training of students. And I think that's the route we have to go more and more, because the population of the country is getting younger, and the people who have practiced, the great names in Nigerian broadcasting or the print industry, have all moved on, and they're not doing anything in terms of impacting on the younger generation of performers coming into the system. So if we can fill that gap between the professional and the theoretical training people have in schools, maybe the quality would be better. I think so, yeah.
In what form do you think, the drop in quality have come, and which aspect of, the broadcast spectrum is practically involved? Is it the traditional broadcast, outfits, or are we looking at the, new media, social, and all that?
Well, if you remember what Bayo was saying, the professionals were spread thin. Okay, so you had this core of professionals, and then you have a surfeit of stations all over the country, and it became a problem in terms of having them reproduce themselves, right? In terms of the fact that, okay, as you grew in the industry, a time will come when you have to move on. There's not a lot of so there's a gap of experience. That's one. And then there is also the reality that as new media also begin to emerge, coping with the realities, not just in terms of the technology, but in terms of the application and the professional application, which is the imperative, has also become a major challenge for all of us in the industry. So we need to ramp up, I think, that relationship between the old professionals and the younger people. But I think we have to take into consideration the demographic reality of our country, and I think it's a major crisis for us. We've become a terribly young country. The median age is 18.1 years. So it's a country of young people. And experience for young people is something that is having a major gap.
Well, apparently, I mean, that will also suggest that the internship program for mass communication students, which is supposed to bridge the gap between classroom experience and then the industry experience, is probably not achieving that much in terms of acquainting the students with hands-on skills and experience when they go out. Usually it's about for 3 or 4 months, and it's done like maybe 2 or 3 years, second or third year rather, before the students graduate. But let's focus again on what you consider to be perhaps the clearest manifestation of the declining standards? As a regulator, what do you find most worrisome on the airwaves?
Well, a lot of issues. I think that the report also mentioned the issue of hate speech, which has become a major crisis for us, but also the fact that even basic professional, okay, for instance, one of the most popular formats on radio now is a phone-in format. It's very easy to stage, and because it's so easy to stage, it opens up apertures for good and bad. Production training, production standards have almost exited the radio. If you go to the new FM stations today, you'd hardly find people who are trained as producers, who take their time to ensure that every production, every program that comes is properly produced. Okay, so even the presentation of music in the old days is scripted. It's properly scripted. I mean, I was an announcer on radio, I was a DJ on radio, but every production must be properly produced. You knew that if you're going to play a piece of music, if it's 5 minutes, you actually timed your piece of music. And you have, you know, I was talking to a group of young people a few weeks ago, and I remembered some of the old presenters on Radio Nigeria. John Ndisika is dead now. John would be in the listening booth of Radio Nigeria, carefully listening to the piece of music, the different pieces he's going to put together, and every piece is timed. But today, you don't have announcers anymore. You have what they call on-air personalities, and they have taken a larger-than-life kind of persona, and they just say what they like on air. So, and you get a lot of problems in terms of the way they perform. So we need to try and go back to the basics in terms of training formats for radio and television to be able to get at least the basic production techniques, presentation formats, and all those things that made radio and television the truly professional platforms that they always have been, even in the history of our country and Nigeria's broadcasting.
Well, what's your take on this? I mean, the world has moved on, and you have newer standards now. If we're to relate it to what Ishaq Modibo is talking about with regard to how you prepared yourself for a program, now you have stations that can almost run on auto. You know, you have music stacked in the system, and they're controlled, you know, remotely. But in terms of declining standards, the real practical manifestation of this, what's your take?
I think that's the price we have to pay for the advent of technology. The technology makes it easier. And if you look at the disposition of our youth these days, they have short patience, and they don't want anything that will stress them. If I could use myself as an example, while growing up as a student at university, we had 3 months vacation when you break in June before you resume in October. I had an opportunity to work Nigerian Herald during holidays, and I had hands-on experience. I had opportunity to work with NTA Kaduna during holiday as a student, and I had hands-on experience. By the time I graduated during my youth corps, I had 1 whole year attachment with NTA Maiduguri, so I had experience. By the time I started with television, it was a lot more easier. The reverse is the case. Like the example cited earlier on, the internship, most students in Polytechnic, ironically, have better hands-on experience than those in the universities. In fact, during the time I was heading the NBC and at the time at the press council, when we go around, lecturers confided in us and said, look, our students that go out on IT get exposed to the latest technology, and they know more than we that are lecturers. And therefore, at the academic level, there is a whole lot of vacuum. The man who is imparting the knowledge is far behind the receiver of the knowledge who has had an internship experience. And the harm is that the FM stations are most guilty of this. The idea of formal programming has been thrown to the dusk. Everybody opens up their potentiometer with a telephone. They don't even have the required telephone facility. So when a listener is tuned on, you hear the back hall in the background. And you'll be telling him, please switch off your radio, switch off your radio, the callback is coming. Lower the volume of your radio. Yes. And ideally, before you put anybody on the air, they're supposed to have been a pre-listening in. He will have been screened to know what he's going to be talking about. And when he's put on the air, there is a smooth transition. But this is not there. And when they wake up to do it, any day, they take the newspaper, what is today's headline? Magu's rejection. That becomes the topic. Without any preparation, without any research, they go on air. And there's also this falsity there, that freedom of expression. This is democracy. We are free to say whatever. People throw caution to the dust, and on air, you hear invectives on the air. Sometimes, I don't even pity the announcers because they call for it. People say things that normally not ought to be on. Of recent, they have started checking it. Some stations are banning certain individuals on their programs, and that is beginning to make the impact. So the way out is the basics. If you don't have the training, the know-how, you don't have anything to offer.
But Bayo, this is going on, because of course the regulators, have probably allowed it. So do you think that this is a failure of, regulation?
See, there is a limit to regulation. A regulator is not supposed to over-regulate.
I ask this because even in the days when Mr. Kyle talked about, you found that NBC was always, presenting papers, logbooks, and coming down to the media outreach, so of course to sanction them.
Yes, ideally, regulation is supposed to be at two levels. First of all, the self-regulation itself, and that is enhanced by the National Broadcasting Code. The Nigerian Broadcasting Code is a guidebook that is agreed by all broadcasters, the regulators, the academicians in the university who are teaching mass communication. So everybody sees it as our guidebook. It's our Bible, it's our Quran for broadcasting. So that in itself is the initiative for self-regulation. Those are the rules, don't violate it. Just as we are on the highway. The highway has its code, abide by it. It is only when this is violated that statutory regulation will come in and say, look, this one you violated section this, you violated section this, and they apply the appropriate section. Those are the
Bio and DG, NBC, by the time we get into the theoretical realm to say, look, let's see the interplay of what's going on, how much regulation is required, and how much official regulation versus how much self-regulation do you permit against the backdrop of what we hear on radio stations, particularly the FM, as my colleague Claire has indicated, and what you also see in terms of poor quality programming on some television stations. Where do you balance this? Is the regulator overwhelmed, or is the regulator clawing at the appropriate balance to strike between overregulation and self-regulation, which is almost like a laissez-faire doctrine?
Honestly, the regulator does this work on a 24-hour basis. This is something that we track on a daily basis, and if you see the amount of effort to try to get radio stations, television stations to walk the narrow and straight, it's incredible the amount of work the professionals have to do on a daily basis. Again, when you have an industry that over a period, as we've said, there's been that drop in terms of the way people do things, then it becomes a problem. And then the political environment in the country also had played a role. I mean, if you look at some of the most horrendous stuff that radio and television stations broadcast during the lead to elections in 2015, of course, even the regulator got sucked into that process. And when the regulator gets sucked into a process, then a serious problem emerges. And I think that all of us collectively have to understand that the professional standards are very important for the growth of the industry in the long run. Otherwise, we're going to have an anarchic situation, and we can't afford to have an anarchic situation in broadcast in our country.
Does the NBC have the capacity to really regulate the over 700, and 93 radio and TV stations?
We do have. We do that on a continuous basis, on a daily basis. And then now, with digital broadcasting, you're going to have even better ways to monitor and regulate. And I think it's a reason that it's good that we're making a transition to digital broadcasting. I mean, in Abuja, we have 30 channels that people watch in our multiplex, and there is a system now for you to actually retrieve material, even stop materials and all that. All this are possible with new technologies. And as we move forward, because in all honesty, when I came to NBC, the very first thing that shocked me was the fact that the way we monitor it, like we're in the what do you call it, in prehistory really. And we really need to move forward, and that's one of the challenges moving forward for us. And we're going to deploy new technologies, train our people better, and bring more people to be part of the process. And again, there's an experience gap even in regulation. We're having a problem of bringing people to try to regulate in the industry who have not worked in broadcasting before. And because the normal route is to get people who have been broadcasters to then come into the National Broadcasting Commission, because they've had the background, they can then look at programs. But now this space are also opening for us. So it's a challenge when the country gets as young as our country has become.
Recently, sorry, Kingsley, recently you gave a stern warning against broadcast stations who permit or allow hate speeches on the airwaves. Are you really going to bite?
No, we really, with something, let me tell you, at the moment we are concluding a study on hate speech. We commissioned a Nigerian consultancy to look at the problem in the country, basically because it's also not, it endangers our country when people go on air and profile ourselves, profile the other person, the other religion, the other region. This is a serious crisis for us, and the airwaves should not be permitted to be used for such. So we've almost completed the study, and what we want to do is to then bring hate speech as an element of the National Broadcasting Code and help also for policy and legislation in the country. And we are taking a very, very serious look at the way stations perform. And that's why we're looking at which Bio has mentioned, the way the performance of the phone-in has become a free-for-all, anarchic way to just vent the spleen, because people think, okay, it's democracy, you can say anything you like. But no democracy allows the freedom of speech that leads to the destruction of the country itself, no. So we really take it very serious, and we're going to continue to monitor and try to ensure that people do the right thing and understand that hate speech. I mean, radio was one of the forms that led to the Rwandan genocide. We have to always remember that.
Yeah, we also saw that in Cote d'Ivoire.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, in terms of regulatory experience, I mean, you know the battle that the Nigerian Press Council has had with the print media. Journalists in this country, and we're all media people, considering our experience during the years of military rule, there's always resistance to regulation, there's always resistance even to prosecution, where you have clear instances of violation of the laws. What do you think is achievable in terms of bringing in media professionals, media practitioners, media proprietors in the broadcast industry to take a look at the table and let's see what is on offer, particularly with regard to either the incipient or very common hate speeches or reckless statements you hear on air?
Well, hate speech should not be given freedom of expression. The United Nations has made that a clear statement on that. This came out from the after effect of the Rwanda genocide. And therefore, nobody should be given access on air to continue to propagate what can be described as hate speech. What the challenge now is for the National Broadcasting Commission to define expertly in the broadcasting code what constitutes hate speech. And that will go a long way in guiding the station. Talking about the print media, the print media is a different kettle of fish compared to the broadcasting. The broadcasting, to me, are more conscious of the fact that anything said on the air could be incendiary, and therefore the industry itself understand and accept regulation. With the print media coming from the background of freedom of expression, anything about regulation is seriously frowned at. But be that as it may, what they have at the Press Council and even at the National Broadcasting Commission is that the kind of board you are supposed to have by the law is supposed to be a professional board. For instance, for the Press Council, you are supposed to have the executive secretary, a journalist of not less than 15 years experience. Whoever is supposed to be the chairman must have experience in journalism of about 20 years experience. And the members of the board itself are taken from the industry. NUJ has, I think, 3 representatives. Guild of Editors has representatives. And so you have a panel of professionals who are superintending over reported infractions in the industry. But be that as it may, I think it was the amendment in 1999 that made the Newspaper Proprietor Association frown at that. And I hope the industry will be able to correct it. But the other point with that is also the code of ethics. The code of ethics that was launched at Ilorin has become almost obsolete, and it is always observed in default. The NUJ, the Guild of Editors, the Press Council, and the Center for Development, a UN agency, did a review of the Code of Ethics for journalism. That will also affect broadcasting. It is now at the beck and call of the Guild of Editors to approve it so that it can be adopted. If it is adopted, most of these elements that are of concern for the industry will be taken care of. With the broadcasting, the Nigeria Broadcasting Code has taken care of a lot of. Without the Nigeria Broadcasting Code, the violations you have found on the air would have been unimaginable.
It's interesting because I've done broadcasting and print journalism. I was editor of Daily Trust, and the chairman of the editorial board. And in the print tradition, people are very conscious of the history of the problems we've had with dictatorship in the country. And so there's always that resistance. And for me, as a professional, I have been particularly worried about profiling and hate speech. As a matter of fact, I am concluding a doctorate study at the Nigeria Defense Academy at the moment, and I'm writing a thesis on profiling and hate speech. And I'm looking at the way the Nigerian media has profiled the Fulbe nomad from 1999 to 2016. And it's incredible when you look at how we have systematically profiled a community and then open up tendencies towards hate speech. So I'm trying to use that to look at that particular phenomenon. And I'm looking at about 4 or 5 Nigerian newspapers. And it's very alarming when you see the kind of things. So the reality is that in the print industry, it's a bit more problematic. And all of us collectively, as he says, the media, we have a lot of responsibilities to our country.
All right, we have reactions coming in from, of course, Nigerians. And once again, just to remind you, our Twitter handle is right there on the screen. It's at NTA German. Kingsley, you want to start?
That's right. Sonny Makalamakoji, one of our regulars, tweets, yes, the contents of what we broadcast should be guided by law, but government should not take advantage of that to silence critics.
All right, and I have Muhammad Ibn Issa tweets, South African xenophobic attack was a later response to hate speeches which had recently denied Nigerians of their basic emolument.
And Etiese Udo Inyang, broadcasting and communication should be regulated by extant law, but government must not interfere in order to enhance national development.
And this is coming from Enoch Ayuk, and tweets, having a free media and communication industry is a necessity to boost and sustain Nigeria's democracy. No regulation is needed for now.
Mike Kanyako says broadcasting organizations must operate under defined extant laws. Government should not interfere in their operations.
All right, and Kadri Olajide tweets, without fixing political interference on our broadcast media, we are still going to be having lots of issues to deal with.
And this one is from Colin Lingos, that's his handle there, sincerely yours, says, your show is highly informative, thank you. Make it more inclusive for Nigerian youth by being more social media savvy. Well, we have a Twitter handle there at NTAGMN, as my colleague Claire said, it's on the left side of your screen. And the program, it's also uploaded on YouTube daily. You have a rebroadcast of highlights of the program, 5 p.m. daily on NTA News 24.
All right, and Kingsley Mohammed Jamil Sadara also tweets, again, government interference is very crucial. Otherwise, the poor masses will be extorted and theme of national development will be undermined.
Well, this one is from Usman Idris. It says, please, Kingsley, tell Ishak that our media outfit has not received approval for close to 10 years now after application. I'm sure you have to go to the NBC to find out what precisely is happening. The DG can speak to that on air right now, but he can talk generally about license and licensing and so on and so forth.
Okay, yes. I have this final one for now, coming from Festus Akimboyewa. Deregulation of broadcast and telecom is good for national development because it has set the industry free to create new services and encourage innovation. We've got more coming in.
That's right. Pastor Mani Akban tweets, bring sanity to the system and bring revenue to NBC. There are many practitioners who would be interested. Think about it.
All right, and this is done MOC tweets, and it's specifically to Mr. Bayo. He says, Mr. Bayo, during your time, things were much easier than now. Students have to hustle for money to resume the next semester instead of doing IT.
I see. But when IT was going on, I mean, the FRCN had a contract system. Then, of course, radio stations around the country broadcasted that if you made an appearance or you wrote a script that was aired, maybe news analysis, it was 8 naira per script. 8 naira. Yes.
I started with 7 naira Kingsley.
Well, mine was 8 naira. Radio Bandit, and later, you know, with Joe Latte and Ernest Okonkwo. You got your money. So, and 8 naira was a lot of money in those days, by the way. I mean, if you were a student, feeding was 50 naira, 50 kobo per meal. You needed 1 naira, 50 kobo to have a 3-square meal. All right. Global Times also tweets, says, Mr. DG, what are you going to do about the challenges in internship program to allow the serious young ones get enrollment?
All right, and finally, Daily Jack Solomon tweets, distinguished moderators, NBC hasn't been firm in monitoring broadcasting for harmful emission, interference, and illegal broadcasting.
All right, so but there are a number of issues here that we'd like the DG to immediately respond to. Some are within, of course, the province of the NBC, others are not. You can see some of the tweets are talking about, look, no regulation, no this, no that. So that's a mindset flowing from what we experienced. And then against the backdrop of what we saw in the early years of the Fourth Republic, after 1999, I mean, we saw mayhem in different parts of the country. People mistaking liberty for license, you know, and freedom for all kinds of actions. We saw riots, and then this, of course, has now seeped in that you have a plenitude of radio or television stations, and people are just broadcasting what they like.
The truth of the matter is, to be civilized is to live in a law-governed environment, and you cannot have an anarchic, no-holds-barred kind of freedom in any community. Nowhere on earth is that going to be allowed. If you're going to have a country that is going to develop, then we must have laws and regulations. People should not choose the laws they are going to obey. We must all be law-governed, and that's just the way it's going to be also in broadcasting. That's why we have a Nigeria Broadcasting Code, which regulates the industry. Even when the Constitution says you have freedoms, freedoms are not absolute. That's nowhere on earth where you have absolute freedom. And I think that's the problem in Nigeria. People think, okay, we have the right to our freedoms. Absolutely, we have the right to our freedoms. But they must be within certain parameters of existence. Otherwise, we won't have a society. And the truth of the matter is, for us in broadcasting, the National Broadcasting Code regulates the way we perform. And there is no other way. And there won't be any other way. If you want to go outside of it, then you have to be brought back. That's it.
Beyond the hate speeches, are there other areas of concern, and what sanctions,
Well, there are various sanctions for all kinds of misdemeanors. Stations are sanctioned for different, even the use of advertisement. One area that is particularly worrisome is claims by medical practitioners.
Okay.
They make all kinds of claims. We cure AIDS, we cure that, and people put them on radio, and it's not permissible. That's just one area, and then you get so many other, which our Directorate of Broadcast Monitoring follows on a daily basis, and stations get letters, get reprimands, get warnings, get fined, and so on a continuous basis. We also interact with stations. Our zonal directorates meet with, interact with stations, point out these issues to them, organize training performances with them. So it's something you keep doing on a daily basis because so many things coming.
I'm just wondering, there's this one for the road.
Yeah.
But you see, there are some practitioners or media scholars would argue, look, why don't you allow the marketplace to determine the fate of some of these stations? I mean, by the time the patronage drops, there's low advertising revenue, then they go out of existence. I'm sure some of them are owing you license fees.
The contrary is the case. I think the more outlandish, the more popular they seem to be. That's a very interesting thing, and that's so when you then want to regulate, people then interpret your action as clamping down on this man that's doing a good job. Okay, but we do not get swayed by the emotions. We just strictly go by the rules and then and impose the sanctions that we need to.
All right, I'm afraid that's how we're going to wrap up our conversation on this very topic. We'd like to appreciate the Director General of the National Broadcasting Commission, Ishaq Modibo Kawu. I hope I got that correct.
Ishaq Modibo Kawu, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. And of course, Mr. Baya Toyebe, former Executive Secretary, Nigeria Press Council. Thank you very much.
You got that correct. Thank you very much.
All right, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria, and we'll take a short break. When we come back, we have a second topic.
Does it make common sense to you to be unhappy the morning right after the night you were happy? Did your elders teach you that wisdom is captured in these 3 sentences? Make money, spend money, have no money.
How can you ask a man to spend 18 million on marrying you when I can use that same amount to marry an entire community?
If we spend the money, 18 million, know that the man is a thief.
What do you think?
My thinking machine is having problems.
That is what you do when you put all you have into a party to impress those who may not even afford to spend like that.
See, I'm planning a birthday bash with a sum of 2 million naira.
Expensive ceremonies. It's another funny and educative episode of your rib-cracking comedy, Professor John Bull, showing at 8:30 p.m. every Tuesday and Friday on NTA Network International and Star Times.
Over and out.
Brought to you by Glow.
Welcome to the new speed of life.
NTA Television College, an affiliate of Ahmadu Bello University Zaria, a specialized institution charged to provide quality professional education in television production, engineering, and journalism. The college is offering 4 weeks course on principles and practice of marketing for marketing heads in radios and television houses, public relation agencies, media heads in advertising, brand support managers, media brokers, and heads of corporate affairs. Date 20th of March to 14th April 2017. Registration 100,000 naira with accommodation. Course will take place at NTA Television College Rayfield Jos. For more inquiries, call 08069809807 or call 07036607155 or email us at ntacollege@gmail.com. NTA Television College, training you to be the best you want to be.
Imagine what will happen if selected intelligent Nigerian youths live together and brainstorm for 60 days with over 200 million eyes watching. Get ready, Nigeria. Something big is coming.
right, you're welcome back. But if you just joined us, it's Good Morning Nigeria, and we are live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Yesterday, and for the second time, Ibrahim Mago failed the screening by the Senate for his confirmation as the substantive chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. Now, we have a number of guests to discuss this development.
Indeed, Kingsley, we have joined us here, of course, to discuss the topic is Chairman Senator Chukwuka Otazi. He's Chairman, Senate Committee on Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes. Distinguished Senator, thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Also joining us here in the studio is Jide Ojo. He's, of course, a well-known face, a political analyst. Mr. Ojo, thank you.
Thanks for having me. Good morning, Nigerians.
All right, and then we also have with us another guest. He's a political analyst. He's Ibrahim Modibo. Ibrahim Modibo, a pleasure to have you join us on the program.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Nigeria, and thank you for inviting me.
Okay.
All right, let's begin with the distinguished Senator Otazi. You want to share with us what's driving Senate's position as regards the EFCC chair?
Well, it's the duty of the Senate that any nominee by Mr. President that needs the Senate confirmation that will look through his records. And if you are satisfied with his record, we invite him to appear before the plenary. And the person will answer questions bordering on the information we have about the person, depending on his abilities, his experiences, his background, and everything. And it's not everybody that appears before the Senate in plenary. Some are asked to go and see the committee, the respective committees in charge of such areas where the person is coming from. But in some cases, like CJN, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, he has to appear. Other justices of Supreme Court have to go to the Senate Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters, as case may be. So in case of the membership of EFCC, the membership of the board have already been screened by the Senate Committee on Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes, and their reports will be laid today at the floor of the Senate. But for the person who of the chairmanship of EFCC, he has the privilege of appearing because of the important position such person is going to occupy and the responsibility that are going to place on his shoulders. That person has to appear before the plenary. And so that was just what happened yesterday, that Mr. Magu was exposed to the Nigerians at the floor of the Senate to make a presentation and defend and answer questions, which were put to him. You know, about over 11 questions were put to him yesterday to answer on his experiences and what he's doing and all that. So that's the reason what happened yesterday. To the best of his abilities, he answered the questions. At the end of the day, the Senate took their decisions by resolution and negatived his nomination by Mr. President and demanded for a replacement.
That's what I asked. What informed the decision at the end of the day by the Senate?
What informed the decision of the Senate is based on the information before them. The security reports, the questions that were asked to him about his job. One, with the issues of the obedience to court orders is a serious issue. We are in a democracy. We are a law-abiding nation. There's no way you can move without respecting the law courts. If you don't respect the laws of the land, you are calling for anarchy. You want self-help. People are appointed to positions, positions are statutory positions, as we have in EFCC, and any other position at all must respect the courts. The decisions they have reached. If you are opposed to such decisions, you move up the ladder until you get your justice. But for you, that if a court sees in the land and asks you to gives orders, and you flagrantly disobey such orders, is serious. We know that an Inspector General of Police was sacked in this country because he refused to boycott orders. He was asked by, relieved of his duties. It's very important. So the Senate looked at such audits that most of all these cases that appear before the courts, that the chairman of EFCC has been known on record, and those questions were asked him why he was doing so. And he didn't give any solid answer to defend himself. It's a solid issue. We looked at his background, the questions that were presented to him, looking at the DSS report against him. We asked him to answer the questions there. He couldn't give enough response to such questions given. And we look, of course, you know why people go to court is that you have to listen to the person, look at his demeanor, look at his, the way he answers questions, the way he reacts to issues and all that. All those collectively influence decisions that you reach at the end of the day. It is all this totality of what happened yesterday that members looked at it and said, sorry, this person is not fit to hold this position. That was just it.
All right, Senator Otazi, thank you very much. We'll come back to you in the course of the conversation. Ibrahim Modibo, Mago has been rejected second time around. What are the implications?
Well, thank you very much for this wonderful invitation to participate in this program, along with distinguished senator who has participated actively in yesterday's episode. Now, let me give a background. When the president started looking for the office of the presidency, he had some fundamental issues at stake. One, to fight corruption, to put food on the table, to look at the issue of insecurity, to give our youths jobs, to address the issues of social infrastructure, to open the political horizon for mass participation, to entrench constitutionalism and rule of law, as well as entrench electoral system that will stand the test of time. Now, in trying to achieve all this, he had decided to assemble men of valor and candor that could propel the wheel of progress to see to the fundamental achievements of these political objectives. Now, my heart bleeds for this country. The rejection of Magu yesterday, in both character and content, is one of the most outrageous examples of brazen impunity, and also the fact that a president, sitting president, has sent twice, having majority of senators in the hollow chamber.
You expect them to be a rubber stamp?
No, not to be rubber stamps, but for them, there must be political party supremacy. That was what happened in 1979. If you look at the time of Shagari, and even during Obasanjo, this thing has never happened. But because they have degenerated, they don't have respect for the president, and they also demean the party, they've decided to sacrifice this gentleman on altar of sentiments. As far as I'm concerned, Nigerian masses today are the ones at the receiving end. The Senate as it is today, I was expecting them to come in and help Mr. President in fighting corruption. As I said, if you look at, let us situate and even contextualize the issue at stake. All the issues that I've stated is bordering on the issues of security. The issue of Magu answered these questions very well. And as a security officer, Magu has never claimed perfection. He has never claimed to be a broadcaster or an orator. And therefore, you don't expect a security agent to talk loud. He's not a loud talker. As you've seen him, whether you look at it from diagonal or perpendicular angle, Magu is a silent performer. And therefore, there is no doubt.
Or you use the Pythagoras theorem to analyze
yes. Magu is a performer. Whether you like it or whether you like his face or you hate him, this man, within a span of 1 year, he has made 184 convictions. He has been able to mobilize both human and material resources in the EFCC to give President Muhammadu Buhari pride of place in the Committee of Nations.
Okay, let's pause.
Nowhere
let's pause
in the history. Let me just land, please. Yes. Nowhere. Excuse me. Let me land.
Senator, let him rule.
Yes. Nowhere in the history of leadership in the world, especially sub-Saharan Africa, west of Zambezi and east of Limpopo, where we see in outrageous impunity while a president is insulted, like what the Senate did yesterday. It was an insult to our collective responsibility. No, excuse me. I didn't inject when you are talking, distinguished senator, with due respect.
Go ahead.
What happened yesterday was traversal of justice. You cannot expect people that have been accused, you cannot expect an accused sitting on the bench on table of justice without giving this man fair hearing, without giving him. When the issue of security came up, Magu was never given fair hearing by security agents to talk. He said it yesterday. I have these 2 letters, which is in public domain, and as a public affairs commentator, I have them. There are 2 letters here. That was written on the same day, on the same topic.
You know what, Ibrahim Modibo, just keep your gunpowder dry. We'll still have more opportunity. But I asked earlier about the implication of the second rejection by Magu, and you've started explaining. Distinguished Senator, we'll still come back to you. Okay. But just a point to interject. You said that this has never happened in the history of this country. You cited the Obasanjo era. Unfortunately, it was a case when Chief Onyema Ugochukwu was nominated as chairman of NDDC. His nomination was more than once. All right, Jide Ojo, let's get your implication. No, let's get your take on the implication of the rejection by Magu. Yes.
Thank you very much. If I may also chip in a word, under President Obasanjo, I recall that Professor Babalola Bodishade was twice nominated before the Senate eventually cleared him. 3 times, but he was eventually cleared on the 3rd occasion, and he became the aviation minister. But the issue, I think, we need to put in perspective. I think the presidency needs to have done a better homework. Here you have the Director General of DSS is from the same state as that of the president. But even if it's not, if you are going to send a nomination of somebody who is going to hold that kind of sensitive position, I think the normal thing would have been to ask the security, the DSS, to have done some background check and find out whether the candidate is appointable. I've heard a lot of conspiracy theories and about, territorial war, interagency rivalry, and all of that. But it's neither here nor there. If the president said, because on October 3rd, the first letter, I know that there are issues about 2 letters being written by the same organization, but the Office of the Clerk of National Assembly, the Office of the Clerk of Senate, said it only receives 1 letter. The other letter was communicated to the special advisor to the president of National Assembly, Senator Itaina, and he didn't offer any explanation. And that was why, when initially in October his nomination was rejected, it wasn't screened in plenary, the Senate, in trying to find out and resolve the issue of whether there are 2 letters, 1 clearing, 1 condemning, sent another letter. The president himself sent a letter, I believe, a communication to the Attorney General on both the SGF and Magu to say he wants an opinion. And newspaper reports said that they were found not to be guilty of whatever the Senate was accusing them of. Then came January, his renomination. One would have expected that the president would have forwarded a letter after the initial rejection of Magu to DSS to say, please, avail me of adequate information or documentation on this candidate. Why was he rejected? And I think the DSS will have offered a more genuine excuse than the Office of Attorney General. But the implication is this. The implication is that it has exposed us to a kind of ridicule in global community. It shows that, because one thing we must not forget is that EFCC has been immersed in controversies over a long period of time, right from the time of, immediately after, in fact, right from the time of Nuhu Ribadu. We all know the controversial circumstances under which he was removed, and so came in Mrs. Farida Waziri, who also have to live under a controversial circumstance. Then Ibrahim Lamode. We knew the campaign that Dr. George Obo went to, going to all the media houses to say that this man is not fit and proper to be EFCC chairman. He has a lot of baggage, corruption allegations against him, and he provided documentary evidences before Ibrahim Lamode was eventually removed in November 2015 or thereabout. Now came Ibrahim Magu. I think the presidency ought to have done due diligence, background check, find out whether this man has any baggage or not. But the damage has been done. The next thing I think, the president should not just push in Magu again. There are more than enough people in the police force or even within the rank, the management structure of EFCC that could easily be nominated who are less controversial. The unfortunate thing, the way I see this panning out is that there is when you look at the timeline, Magu was nominated in November 2015. There was no official, as acting chairman, there was no official communication to Senate for his confirmation until June 2016. And then the Senate itself slept on it, kept it in view until October 2016. So it just doesn't add up to me. Why the delay in even nominating him for confirmation? So if the man has some baggage on him, I think there are more than enough gallant men of valor, men of integrity within the police or other security. I don't know, I'm not too familiar with EFCC Act, whether it's only police that could be appointed, but I know there are, out of 180 million Nigerians, there should be somebody that can effectively, without controversy, nominated to be EFCC chairman.
All right, Jude, we'll get back to you again, but let's return to Senator Otazi. Senator Otazi, there are allegations that the DSS may want to get back at, of course, the EFCC chair. Did the Senate, in, arriving at its conclusion, consider the fact that there have been inter-agency rivalry?
Well, you see, the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has been dispassionate in handling these matters. So we know that the issue surrounding the appointment of Mr. Magu is a public one. So many people are interested, rightly so. But I want to say, before I get to your question proper, that my friend on my left, has Ibrahim Modibo, yes, my friend Ibrahim Modibo here, wants the Senate to be partisan in taking a decision. He feels that APP, APC, and PDP, Labour, and other people are there that if anytime we bring issues of national consequence, we will get back and start talking about whether you belong to a party or not. The Senate, the 8th Senate, has risen above party affiliations in considering issues of national importance. We don't get there and say this one is PDP or this one is APC or this one Labour or anything at that moment. And it's very, very regrettable that when we come and make such a insightful statement, the National Assembly should be encouraged to not be partisan when they are discussing issues. They should look at issues as they come and face it. And inciting Mr. President that this is a travesty of justice, that we have is impunity. You see, one thing that makes me happy is that Mr. President is not the type of person that is given to such insinuations. He is a man that has committed himself to freeing this country from corruption and is committed in doing good work for this country. And the Senate of the Federal Republic is backing him every inch to ensure that things work out well. Because you can never clap with one hand. You see, and this fight is not one man issue. It's everybody's. There must be a collective resolve. And that's what we're just doing. But we know that each time we take a decision of this nature, people will give interpretation to it. People will make insinuation, but that's not the issue. The issue that is before us here is that the Senate have looked at the matter before us. And to the best of its ability, bearing in mind that you need to do fast check. I've told you that abuse, flagrant disobeying of court orders is a serious issue in a democracy. Rule of law is the order of the day. We have to face that. Any agency of government that is going to go and do that, there is no hope for anybody. We looked at that. Then the issue that came up also is that the papers, my friend says, is a fly in here. Anybody can get his letter from anywhere he wants to get it. That doesn't concern us. The question was asked yesterday by the Senate President, the clerk of the Senate, did you get any report of any sort? And most of the time, any nominee that comes to before the Senate for confirmation, he comes with the appointer. In this case, Mr. President, we send the security report attached. This one did not come. So the offense the Senate committed is that they now demanded that if this one comes without a decision, and every other one that you've sent to us before, you have been sending them with security reports, and this one did not appear with any. And then they made a request, give us information. And the information was given. Second time again, it was reappointed, it was renominated. And the same Senate was sent back to the same the DSS. We did not put the DSS there. DSS works under the presidency. You know, so, and we ask again, this man is represented. What do you say? They reconfirmed what the initial letter. So what offense have we committed in doing that?
All right. Ibrahim Modibo, earlier you were talking about the perpendicular issue. So how do you resolve this quadratic equation?
Thank you very much. Before I go to the perpendicular issue, let me state here, without any fear of equivocation, that Ibrahim Magu's appointment, when it came, you know, since the president came in, there was only 2 changes that he made in the security agencies that were fighting corruption, DSS and EFCC. And the achievements of Ibrahim Magu has been overwhelming. And the DSS, as a rival organization, is very uncomfortable. No, let me learn. It's very uncomfortable. I have the right to my own opinion. I am a civil service, I'm a public analyst, public affairs analyst. I'm also a member of civil service. I am also chairman of a editorial board. Having worked as a national director of publicity of a party for 10 years, APP, I think I stand a very good chance to analyze these issues and to contextualize them.
Please go ahead.
Please go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Now, having said this, let me tell you, Ibrahim Magu as a person, let me tell you, nobody has ever come to say Ibrahim Magu is corrupt. I challenge anyone in Nigeria to come out and say that Ibrahim Magu has collected 10 naira from me as bribe. Never since he started his police.
What about the issue of the court order?
The issue of court order, please, you are all Nigerians. If there is a court order, it presupposes that also there's an appeal. Well,
it doesn't presuppose.
No, it presupposes
it doesn't presuppose.
that there should be an appeal.
No. For the benefit, sorry, Ibrahim, for the benefit of our viewers,
you're a lawyer.
It doesn't
but
presuppose.
Let me tell you, yesterday, that was what he said.
Yes.
He said on the floor of the Senate, when they asked him the same question, he said most of these court orders, he has appealed against them. And therefore, there must be self-execution.
No. A notice of appeal does not amount to a stay of execution.
No,
that's the point. That's the law.
Whatever it is in this, whatever it is in this circumstance, in this circumstance, there has been an appeal. Okay. Now, having said that, you see the issue of saying that Ibrahim Magu is not the only one in the police force that is the most. Let me tell you, he has trained in the best tradition of investigation of fraud in the whole world. He's one of the best 10 in the whole world in terms of forensic accounting. Whether you like it or not, give it to him. In this country, right from day one, when Obasanjo gave Nuhu Ribado a paper to form EFCC, Malam Ibrahim Magu was there. He headed the Economic Financial Unit, of which he investigated the 36 governors, state governors before, who are now all in the National Assembly, and found them wanting. Most of them looted the treasury or accused of looting the treasury, and most of them now have sat on a court over a very innocent and courageous and exceptionally brave fraud fighter. This is transversal of justice. If there is any setup, there must be a very pure.
No, but Ibrahim,
Yes.
again, you know, on the point of law, let's be careful.
No,
just
it's a fact.
It's a minute,
It's a fact.
distinguished Senator.
It's a fact.
A moment ago, we were discussing responsibility on air. Now, we have no proof of the allegations you are leveling against former governors. You are saying all 36 governors, they are all now in the Senate. So we are retracting that on your behalf. So,
I said so.
Just proceed. Proceed with the points that you are
articulating. I said most of the 36 governors that were investigated, Magu did the investigation. And there were accusations, allegations are allegations.
Some of them are on trial.
Good.
Full stop.
Some of them are on trial and they are allegations. That's what I said.
Yes.
I still maintain that some of them were on trial or allegations. Unless if it is proved otherwise, they're still on allegations, they're on trial.
Okay.
And therefore,
Okay, sorry, Kingsley, I also...
you cannot sit,
Gentlemen,
you cannot sit in judgment of the accused.
Which judgment?
Yes, you cannot sit in judgment of somebody that is trying you.
Which judgment?
Can we have this
just
conversation?
No.
Distinguished senators.
No.
Distinguished senator, please.
We have the right to talk
Please,
on our issues.
Sorry, Director, can we go for a break, please?
You are watching NTA, Nigerian Television Authority. For more information and news updates, visit our website at www.nta.ng, or you can follow us on Twitter at NTA News Now, or you can like us on Facebook at NTA Network News. Stay connected on our YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/NTA News Online. Watch our live stream at www.nta.ng/live. NTA, you can't beat the rich.
All right, welcome back. We're still having our guests here discussing the second rejection by the Senate of Ibrahim Magu as substantive chair of EFCC. There are reactions already from our viewers. We take those reactions and return to our guests to get their closing thoughts. Stephanie Hegati tweets, 11 senators have been investigated for corruption, and they have to, according to the tweet, confirm the man in charge of investigating them.
And Seni Michael Omakoji, Magu is not the only competent Nigerian to be EFCC boss. Hence, his second rejection is a call for President Muhammadu Buhari to consider another candidate.
Seidu ML tweets, looking at the screening, Magu was not impressive, but I doubt if a good performance would have made any difference anyway.
Mohammedu Jamil Sadara, Magu's rejection is corruption fighting back. Many hands are soiled. Wonder how two wrongs will eventually make a right.
Mike Ayankwa tweets, Magu's confirmation or disqualification is purely the responsibility of the Senate, but their action must be on issues and not vendetta.
And Enoch Ayok tweets, Senate should focus on enacting anti-corruption laws, not on an individual who has a fixed period for operation.
Michael Amakoji again, whether or not the questions asked by the Senate during Magu's screening were politically motivated or not, Magu failed woefully.
And this one is from Dele Jack Solomon. The Senate took advantage of the banes of Magu, such as maintaining a high-profile lifestyle and parading a twin personality to nail him.
And this from Abdulaziz Ismail. Now, since the Senate has rejected Magu twice, if I were the president, I would nominate Hamid Ali as EFCC chairman and replace him with Magu.
And Pastor Mami Akman tweets, Magu's rejection is a breath of fresh air for our politics, considering that APC controls the Senate. Kudos to the senators for once.
Ahmed Gambo Ibrahim tweets, the Senate carried out its duty professionally, to me. The AGF and DSS should drop sentiment when security advice is needed from them.
And Festus Akimboyewa, rejection of Magu as EFCC chairman by Senate shows contempt for president. Magu should now arrest corrupt Nigeria National Assembly members.
Innocent Yawa James, the rejection of Magu by the Senate showed lack of synergy in the fight against corruption, and the presidency should act.
And finally, Dele Jack Solomon tweets, has Magu failed the integrity test, and has he constituted a liability to the anti-corruption drive of the present administration? All right, let me bring in Jide Ojo here. Jide Ojo, Ibrahim Modibo here had said that Mr. Magu had appealed, the court, of course, order on him. Now, does that amount to disobeying court orders?
Well, like the clarification that Mr. Moderator said, you know, appeal does not amount to stay of execution. And it can be in all of the cases. I think one thing our public officers need to know is that, yes, we want anti-corruption, but it must be anti-corruption with human face. It is a trite law that it's better for 1,000 offender to get away than for one innocent person to get wrongfully punished. There have been several allegations, like I said earlier on, against the FCC leadership, previous ones and the current one. And all of this had to be looked into, because if you must come to equity, must come with clean hands. You cannot sweep rule of law or human rights abuse or under the carpet. If you don't go by rule of law, it will be rule of the jungle. And the moment the moment people lose faith and confidence in an institution of government, then we are done for. Remember, the reason why EFCC was carved out of Nigerian police was because of incompetence on the part of the police to do due anti-corruption. Now we have carved out EFCC, ICPC, Code of Conduct Bureau, and all of that. We are still challenged. I think it's an introspection. The Presidential Advisory Committee on anti-corruption, led by Professor Isesage, has to go back and put on their thinking caps and try to see where did we miss it. Because like one of the person who tweeted said something, it shows lack of sync. I don't know whether the presidency has something to hide by not attaching a security report to the nomination of Ibrahim Magu. If there had been a security report attached, and the president saw that there was an indictment and that this person has failed the integrity test, it will have saved us all of this headache and brouhaha. But unfortunately, it was not attached. It was requested twice, and the DSS has confirmed. I do know, and we cannot sweep under the carpet, that there could be interagency rivalry. I have said on another platform. Why, for instance, is it that it was DSS that went after the judges in October last year and not EFCC? Because these judges were arrested based on anti-corruption, that they were corrupt. And I think it's the primary responsibility of EFCC to fight corruption. But we saw DSS doing that, which more or less looked like an usurpation of the role of EFCC. There could be interagency rivalry, but that should not be the primary reason why we just have to endorse anybody that is brought, irrespective of security reports that could be hanging against the person.
All right, Jide Ojo, thank you very much. Senator Utazi, very briefly. Some commentators say that perhaps what we are seeing now is, a play out of the saying that when you fight corruption, corruption fights back. What's your comment?
Well, you see, that has been a veiled answer to people who just want to raise issue that doesn't count. You see, this should not apply. The Senate of the Federal Republic has a constitutional mandate to do this job. This Senate has been doing it, and we continue to do so. It's not just a question of whether this person failed or not. There are many people who have come before, and before the Senate, and they have failed. One way or the other, they have the president did the needful. What we should be saying, concentrating, is discussing about the institution, not individuals. How do we strengthen the anti-graft agencies in this country? How do we make sure that they are working effectively for our people? Not talking about one individual or the other. It's not. We are not facing the facts. The facts should be the institution. How do we strengthen it? How do we ensure that they have the best of knowledge? How do they have the best of exposure? How are these people working? That is what we are committed in doing.
All right, thank you, Senator Utazi. Ibrahim Modibo,
yeah, thank you.
Your closing thoughts very briefly now.
Yes. My closing thought is, I do not believe, or I don't want to subscribe to a superior argument raised by some fundamentalists on this issue that the DSS has a hidden agenda, and also the fact that that letter to the president is like forming a parallel government with the president. I don't want to believe it. But let me suffice it to say that looking at the issues, I want to appeal to the conscience of Mr. President that this man is a corruption fighter, and he needs people like that, because for now today, The only thing that is working for Nigeria is that fight against corruption, of which President Muhammadu Buhari, wherever he goes, he gets both national and international accolades from all the world leaders because of the feat of Magu. Magu has performed, whether you like his face or you don't like his face.
All right.
This is a colossus and an enigma.
All right,
he has been able to place record on the sand of times.
Ibrahim
That will be
Modibo,
difficult to erase.
Ibrahim Modibo, a political analyst, of course, joining us in this conversation. We'd like to thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
We'd also like to appreciate political analyst Jide Ojo. Jide Ojo, thank you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
And distinguished Senator Chukwuka Utazi, Chairman, Senate Committee on Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes. Many thanks to you.
It's been a pleasure to be here.
All right, we have just enough time.